us three, huh?
Yes.
Oh.
We'll restrict.
I'll
Restrict it to only few questions. All right.
One second.
Yeah, good evening, one and all. My sincere request, because we like 2 cats, would be like 10 questions. Please, if you can limit your questions and the shorter versions, with not long anecdotes. Please, 10 questions. Please. Thank you. It is a mic.
Jeff,
Yes?
in India, too much of cricket is playing, like ODI or some T20. Do you think they will come, Test cricket will die?
Who wants to know whether Test cricket is going to die because of T20 and ODI?
We have the same question in Australia. It's a bit of a worry because even in Australia, numbers drop off, as in crowds watching Test cricket, because probably the price and it lasts for 5 days. I mean, it's the only game you watch doing that. In this day and age, people have less time. The fans have less time to watch, so they'll tend to go to a 1 day or a 2020 because it's all over in 1 day. You see everybody, both bat, both bowl, and they're out of there, And that's the biggest problem with Test cricket. Test cricket will never die with people that know what it's all about. You know what I mean? Like the thrill of the game, up and down, changing and all that. A couple of those Test matches you guys just played in England were really, I even watched them, and I don't really watch that much. And I watched them because they were exciting, but that's the only sort of game you get that in. And unfortunately, the popularity of it is on the wane because of the 2020.
Okay, next question, please.
Hello. Hello, sir. Hi, Jeff. This side. Hi, Jeff. I'm Devasis from Sambar. You just said upstairs that cricket's popularity is decreasing in Australia. And the same is the case in West Indies. How is the cricket as a game, wild game, after 20-30 years from now?
What's he say?
So,
How's cricket?
The degeneration of the game and
Yeah.
how it's happening, like with the game changing.
Well, the biggest problem with cricket in Australia was the Cricket Australia only look after, seriously, their contracted players. The ones that get the Australian deal. So I don't know how many of that is, whether it's 26 or 30, I'm not sure. But they keep spruiking that they look after cricket grassroots. They don't. I go around all the areas. I've just been around all the areas before I came here. And cricket's struggling for numbers. Kids aren't playing in the country areas. They don't bother. Don't ask me why, because they get paid so much, the players. And to make it in cricket, you've got a better chance, I generally think, than a lot of other sports. It's a bit more looser to get in, a bit more easier to get in, I'd like to say, than a lot of other sports. But it's on the wane. And I think the biggest problem is because of the length of the time of Test cricket. But if you ask them to play 2020, yeah, they'd front up for that. And the way the worry is too, is if you asked a kid who plays for your state, like as in your state team, your Ranger team, let's say, back in Australia, they probably could name a couple of blokes. If you named them who played for Brisbane Heat, I bet you they could tell them all the team. That's 2020. And the same would be here, I bet you, in some cases. Probably not as much because you guys are cricket nuts, but people back home aren't cricket nuts. They just like watching sport. Yeah.
Next question, please.
My question to you is that after Steve Smith, David Warner, they got banned, in ODIs, the graph of Australia has come down, and with just a few months more for the Cricket World Cup, what do you think will be Australia's chances in the World Cup?
Well, at the moment, I'd say we'd come a good 4th or 5th, but Steve Smith and Warner are back by then they're back in March, aren't they? I think they're back off the bat, unless it gets lifted before then. But they'll be back just when that's March, April, May. It's in May, isn't it, in England? So they've got a few months to get ready, but maybe somebody else will come along. I don't know. From what I've seen back home, that's wishful thinking. We've got a few good bowlers, a good young spin bowler. The fast bowlers are fine, but the batting is poor for reasons that I said upstairs. Yeah.
One more
Last
question.
two questions, please.
One more question. Can you just tell us about your and Dennis Collins' partnership on and off the field at your time?
We had a good time. He rang me the other day to see how I was going. I forget where I was. I was out in the country area with Dougie Waters, and we were talking to Dennis Lilly. He rang us from Perth. Just that's how we were in those days. We were all good mates in that team. Dennis is fine, but to play with a bloke of his calibre makes my job easier, and vice versa. He plays with me, it makes his job easier. So we had a good time together, you know. If you can be around with a pack of bowlers. I mean, look at those West Indians. Roberts, Holding, Garner, Croft, and then all the other guys they had, Malcolm Marsh and these, you know, at the same time. And then the batters they had, makes life pretty easy, doesn't it? It's quite obvious what you need.
Last question, please.
Last two questions, maybe?
Over there?
Over there, I just had somebody. Just hang on,
Hang on, wait till the mic gets it.
Yeah, my question is how will the pink ball cricket going to change the fast bowling and also the skill for batsmen?
Yeah, but the pink ball generally moved when it was twilight, you know, the same time as the white ball. You know, if you bowl when it's starting to get dark, any ball's going to move, you know, and it's quite interesting. Well, you guys don't want to play against pink ball anyway, do you? You know, I don't know why, because you can bat better than us anyway, you know. So, but I really don't know the reason behind that. But a pink ball, at least it livened the game up, made it a bit more of a contest.
But Stuart Smith once said that the pink ball seam is not that good as compared to Ekamara. So
I've never bowled with a pink ball, so I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
Last question, please. Yeah, you can. You can, please.
in FIFA World Cup, there are 30 teams in the world participating. But if we will see in ICC ODI World Cup,
32
then
teams, 32 teams, FIFA.
32 teams. In ICC ODI World Cup, we will see only 16 teams.
10.
10. Yes. Then cricket will throughout the world.
So he's talking about the globalization of sports and the globalization of cricket as a game compared to football.
As in what? As in where is it going?
Where's it going? Yeah.
Well, again, football has it over cricket because it's a shorter game. It's 1.5 hours, and it's all over and done with. You know, so that helps. And you don't have to be rich to play football. All you need is a pair of boots, and you don't even need those because if you're any good, somebody's got to sponsor you anyway. All you need is a ball to kick around. Whereas cricket, you need pads, you need a wicket, you need somebody else, you need somebody to chase the ball, you need some mates with you, you need bats, pads. It's dear, it's costly to play cricket on your own. And that's why soccer's played in poor areas, and that's why so many play it, you know. So you'll never beat that. Don't worry about that, you know. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's like golf. Golf's a dearer game. It's harder to play, but it's a lot more bigger globally. But golf struggles for numbers now. Golf is on the decline because of the cost of golf clubs. Because nobody wants to pay that much money for everything. And it's the same back home. It's the same in America. Same everywhere. Everyone's sick of paying all the fees for all these things. Yeah. Is that it?
Yeah.
The government of Russia. Yeah, well, okay, I think we're going to wrap it up there now. I've said enough today, but I'd just like to thank the government of Orissa for the invite to come here. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get much of a look around, but it looks a pretty good place to have a look around to me. And but I'm a busy man. I've got I've got other commitments around the world. But it's always nice to come to India, and for the government to ask me from Orissa to do this was a pleasure, especially with a whole bunch of other great sportsmen as well. So thank you.
So last question. You were in the heritage chapel of the country.
Does that mean I'm really old?
Yeah, last question then and we'll wrap it.
Sir, how do you rate the Indian cricket team for the next World?
How do you rate the Indian cricket team in the World Cup, the chances?
I won't go that far because you go too far, injuries come along, things happen. But India and Australia, I think you guys, you know, are favourites at the moment. Put it that way, unless something drastically happens, unless a couple of these hockey kids can bloody bat, we're going to struggle.
All right, thank you so much, Media. Thank you so much.
Thank you.